I'm trying to make it where it's like, hey, we're here. Hey, something's happening. Hey, come back. Hey, this is dope. Oh, drop here, tape stop here, delay here. Like, you know, just creating moments in the record to really keep people engaged. That's one of my main priorities. Yo, what's good, y'all? Steelo Foreign here at Elevate Recording Studios in Austin, Texas. We're here with Producergrind going behind the mix on this new record with Billyracxx Lil Gotit. And I'm going to give you some tips and some tricks behind what I do and how this song came about. And we're going to have fun with it. Let's go. So jMyth produced this record. It was a part of a producer challenge with Producergrind. Me and Billyracxx thought it would be pretty dope, along with Dylan, to give away an acapella to the community and see how the producers would do the different takes on it. We had over 400 submissions. We judged, I think, 120 of them. And jMyth came out on top. And so, fortunate enough, me being the executive producer of this record, I was able to go in and take his stems, take his beat files, and kind of switch up and do whatever was our preference on the record, whatever Billy decides. So I met Billyracxx in 2016. We started making music through the Austin scene, doing local shows as different entities, and just starting to go through the creative process. And really, it was cool because we just had a new relationship, but I remember coming back from my first trip to New York, and then I get back to Austin, and he lived in Houston at this time, and I hit him up, and it was a Wednesday, and I remember this vividly. I was at a hotel. It was a Wednesday, and I was in Austin, had all my bags, just got touchdown, and I hit him. I was like, yo, I'm coming to Houston. We're about to make a tape in a week. And so that's what we did. We pulled up. We made a week in Houston. And ever since 2016, we've been locked in. You know what I mean? It's been nothing but, you know, hits after hits. You know what I mean? So pretty much this mix started. Obviously, we had the acapella when we started this. And then once we found out who the winner was, shout out jMyth, I took his stems. And there was a lot of other good producers up in contention. Don't get it wrong. Like, out of 400 people, out of the 120 that we judged, I think that there was like a top 30 consensus that was like, sheesh, like, what you think about it? That's 25% of what's being listened to at a critical level being like, it's hot out here. So, you know, producers, stay on your grind. You know, producer grinds for real. So I started with the stems from jMyth's beat. Threw that into the project, started with the vocals that I already had with Billy in the previous session. So we just kind of reloaded that session than what the old song was. So from there, you got to organize, you got to get it all right. So don't take my screen as an example, because it was like a lot of ideas being thrown in and out of what's going on. But to start, I'm just going to play the beginning. And a cool thing about this beginning is that through the process and the creative process of critiquing and having different people listen, like Dylan, Billy, other people involved as well, behind the scenes individuals that helped to do what we do as well, we got to a point where we wanted this song to come in with such an impact and such a quick feel that it now it's structured in a way where Billy comes in with the vocals right away, which is something that's a little unorthodox. Normally you want the beat to build, you want, especially what this beat was, you wanted to feel that intro and how it came in. But I think it's a great consensus, and so I'm gonna play it for you now. And I think it's a great way to start a song, something different, something unique. So there's something to think about when y'all go in to mix y'all's records. I just did it, red, but I've been waiting. Said I got legs, they get paper, said I got legs, no. After they made it, that little lick come in, yes. Talking about bands in the coupe and chocolates. You running out of room in the mosh pit. Lately, I've been in the building and it feeling kinda hazy. Moving on the road, moving in my place. I'm not patient, I'm in tune with this shit. It's like gravy. Look, bitch, we been cruising since this time. What am I saying? It ain't in my face, it don't get out. He might be crazy, but it ain't stupid. It's this shit. So as you can see, like up top is like all of my Billy vocals, right? So like that's a Billy verse. That's a Billy song for y'all right there. That's something light too. That's very, very light for a Billy song. So from there, you know, just any modern mix really, it's going to have some form of auto-tune or pitch correction or something to smooth it off. And so Billy likes to go with a heavy auto-tune feel to his mixes. So we just start there normally, making sure everything's in key, making sure, you know, everything that he delivered, because Billy records it in a unique way where I don't really got to mix much when it comes to his parts. because as we recorded, or as he's recording, he has such intention behind how the vocal wants to sound that like when he plays it back, it's set in stone almost. You know, it's written in ink. You know what I mean? So from there, once he's done recording and we're starting to go through the mixing process, it's more so how can we take this to the next level. So in that aspect, there was things that we do with like beat drops and you know, manipulation throughout the production, manipulation throughout his vocals. So like sometimes, you know, we'll throw unique delays at a certain part. Sometimes we'll, you know, filter out a vocal with a pedal board or some type of distortion. And so from there, that's where I started. I just kind of really just saturate the record. And then, you know, once we got Gotit's verse, it was game over. You know, we put that in. Once you get done working with a vocal like Billy's, like it's light work to work with something that, you know, 4, 5, 6 tracks. Like, you know, we'll find places for those real easy. So we'll talk more about that though for sure.
Fake, he unfocused, that's all lies. Running in front of my guys, you going to her phone, no surprise. You still was take my time, my nigga stay loaded. I just did it, ready, but I've been waiting. Said I got legs, they get paper, said I got legs, no. Perfect admit, that little lick come in, yes.
So right there's a key example of, if you look into the project, you can see majority of what I'm working with, and see, like, it's not even named right. So like, again, don't use my reference at all, by all means. There's better references for organization out there for your projects. I'm just a crazy painter. So most of the beat that I use for the mixing purposes is the jMyth 2 track, but there was some parts like at this breakdown where obviously we did some beat chops, you know, like I said earlier, but then more importantly is I took some stems from the stems that he sent me. So I essentially just dragged the master from Fruity Loops. So yeah, there's like a master, a current you get from Fruity Loops whenever you like track out stuff. And so I took that's the majority of the production that I'm using throughout the song. But then I took a few stems and I placed them at like a bridge, I guess, or like, you know, a bridge section in the beat, but in the song it's like, I guess the hook. I just took like an ARP, a bass, pretty much the sample, the bass, and then I made sure to put like this little ARP transition back in there. So just creating like unique moments and having that, you know, I didn't have to have all the stems to create this moment. You know what I'm saying? Like I literally took 3 tracks and I just found a moment and I made it specific and I made sure that it was achieving the attention that I wanted in my mix. So building blocks, pieces, not necessarily the whole pie. It has to be what you work with. You can really dive into the crust and you can pick different flavors and you can really start to orchestrate your own structure of mix, your own sound. So I thought that was a really cool part about this mix that I liked.
Drink, but I might do it. Let me know, cause we got Roy and he gets stupid.
Let's just take a moment and appreciate, you know, the Roy Smith shout out, you know, cause he get wild now. Shout out Roy Smith, very necessary, you know, co-founder, and big part of how me and Billy came and sustained all the creative process that we built together. So definitely a big shout out in the record. We got to let that one go. Essentially, we took the acapella. We already kind of had, you know, I 2-tracked that out for everybody. So, you know, you're welcome. And then now we're back into the original session. I brought jMyth's beat in. We put all that together, make sure it's copacetic, make sure everything's meshing. And then we opened up the verse to try to see where we could take this. It's a cool moment in music. It's a cool moment in time to, you know, put something out for the community and then have an artist be open to something like that and just seeing the intentions of where we're trying to go with this record. So fortunately, you know, Lil Gotit was able to, you know, skate and slither all over the record and find his way into the studio and bless us with this verse. And so just a cool thing about his verse is like it's like being able to take it's like the other side of the spectrum. Like Billy's super intentional, you know, it's like, yo, it got to be XYZ. And on the other side, it's like we were able to take the files and kind of go where we wanted with them. And you know what I mean? I appreciate that freedom. I appreciate that opportunity to kind of chase those unknowns, you know, because sometimes people are like, yo, it's got to be like this, it's got to be like that, you know. It can't be anything different. I was working on one record and the A&R told me like, yo, if you touch anything on those vocals, he's gonna have your head, you know what I mean? So it's cool to have to know when it's a time to play that card, you know what I mean? So shout out Lil Gotit. I'm gonna play a little bit of his verse. And the cool thing about his verse is like it's simple, it's short, it's simple, I think it's a great duality in the record. You know, Billy has something complex, he has some, you know, layers to the record. I got it come on here, he just slide in and out on there so effortlessly, and I think it was a great addition to the record, you know what I'm saying? I think it was a cool ad, you know what I mean? So a big part about mixing too isn't necessarily just sitting down and listening to a record. It's about listening to the people around you. And I think that this is a testament to that. You know, this record continued to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. Even from the first record and how that was made, it's just like it continued to be analyzed and critiqued and pushed and pushed. You know, we have all types of people that are going to appreciate the song in different ways, you know, find something that resonates with them, and that just helps an identity form behind the record. So, you know, this record definitely is a testament to being A&R'd by the community. You know, the producers came together, they put forth their best effort. The judges came together, put forth their best effort. You know, Billy did his thing, got it, myself, jMyth, everybody involved, pushed it further and further and further. So, you know, it's definitely something that you got to think about when you go into making these records. Is don't just look at your screen, look around you. Is our heads moving? Is the energy in the room right? You know what I mean? That's going to be your biggest asset, your biggest tool, is reading a room when it comes to mixing, not necessarily listening, but feeling and understanding. You know what I mean? So definitely a gem. You know what I mean? So yeah, like one of my favorite moments in the record was definitely the intro. So I'm gonna play that for y'all real quick.
I just did it, ready, but I've been waiting. Said I got legs, they get wet, but said I got legs, no. Pop it in mid, that little lick come in, yes. Talking about bands in the coupe and topless. You running out the room in the mosh pit. Lately, I've been in the pit.
So like you're already in it. You know, you can't escape it. You're already in it. You might as well listen to it. You might as well vibe with it. You might as well TikTok it. You might as well share it. You might as well, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I would like about this record. And that took a community to come to that consensus, because for me, I had it originally structured how the beat was structured, and that was a whole nother 8 bars intro. You know what I mean? And so it's just a smart choice. So definitely one of my favorite moments in the record. Now, one of my favorite plugins to use when mixing, most of the time I'm just using like Logic presets, Fab Filter, obviously Antares with the auto-tune, but you know, maybe Cable Guy's Halftime for certain things. You know, it just depends. So my favorite plugin though, I would have to say for this record, and I think what really brought this was the Logic preset Bit Crusher. And why that is because it really brings, let's see if we can solo this. It really brings just out of this world bounce to it. I think, you know, in Billy's vocals specifically, like really embodied an alien, and you know what I mean? So like alien robot cyborg. So let's see if we can catch this real quick.
Moving on the road, moving in my.
So you can hear it's like some people might use like a RC20 to try to get this with the distortion and the different little chains and mounts that you can create, but I just use the Logic preset Bit Crusher, change the resolution, which is like the bit, and then also turn the drive up and down according to how you like. And downsampling helps, like it helps establish like more robotic, less robotic, like the spacing between what's happening. You know what I mean? So I also use the pedal board Logic preset. You can create your own rack in there, and so you know I can add distortion, I can add a flanger, you know, I can add fuzz, chorus, all these different things. And so from there, like if I could give y'all any gems, it's just you got a backtrack, you got a track you want a little more sauce on, you want a little more salt on, throw the doubler on it, the Waves doubler. solo, mono, any preset, and then you add some saturation like big crusher, distortion, a pedal board, a flanger, a chorus. You're gonna start to see. Then you start to add your echoes and your reverbs. You're gonna see how really your mix trajectory really starts to elevate. You know what I mean? So.
We got Roy and he gets stupid, So he price him, he went up, so he got fake, he unfocused, that's all lies. Running in front of my guys.
What about Jason effect is like the flanger on there, whatever. I don't know what it's called, but the thing that I did on there really accentuated and enhanced the space theme that I was referencing earlier, and like how Billy likes to be in, you know, a project named Alienated. You know, he's the Houston's resident alien. Like, he lives and breathes embodying that, in the sense that when we go to the sonics of these records, I got to make sure that we're delivering that theme. You know what I mean? So the soundtrack to that character. So it really dove deep into Billy's parts and how Billyracxx as an artist, you know, his intention is there, and how we have to take that from a mixing engineer and a tracking engineer and a producer, and really try to maintain the integrity of the recording artist. That's the main part, because we were just listening earlier. 40 says, you know, Dre got to sign off. He got to say, yeah, this is the one that I think is the best version of this before we go any further with it. So maintain that integrity. And I think, you know, we definitely did that for Billy. But when we got Gotit's verse, there's not really a lot of direction, you know what I mean, when it came to how his vocals should be and how, you know, XYZ. So like I said, we had the freedom to kind of see where we wanted to put stuff, how we wanted to make it work. Through the communication with Dylan and Billy, we were able to kind of really scope this verse into something that it needed to be, you know what I mean? So
we been cruising since time. Got me lit. I got ice in the wrist. Got my lifestyle lit. Swag, I'm a DR kid. Drake gon' hit you, gotta keep. I gotta say, but you know I'm rich. With the game when you got
that beat drop, that's the most important part. You know, we had a little tape stop in there. Some to just, you know, something to bring it down. Create a moment with the listener. Because more times than not, when I'm mixing a record, all I'm looking for is moments to make somebody jump back into it. I'm not looking, because as a personal listener, I'm listening to something to like sedate or like to kind of blend. Like, I binge listen to music. So when I listen to something as a fan, I'm listening to it like as if it almost doesn't exist. It's just like a frequency that just blends into life, you know?
I got ice in the wrist. Got my lifestyle lit. Swag, I'm a DR kid. Drake gon' hit you, gotta keep.
You know, but then also boom, boom. You know, you gotta add that. That's one of Billy's favorite drops. Is he goes, add that boom, boom, boom in there. You know, he just wants he wants it to come back and just hit you in the face. So that goes back to what I was just saying earlier. You know, wanting to create moments, and so, you know, you had the tape stop, break, boom, boom. You know, that's stuff that I learned from when I first started in 2015 with really engineering for other people, and trying, like when I met Billy and when we started really diving into the process, I was looking at people like Alex Toomey and the Skyfall video, and he's with Metro and Trav. I'm like, okay, cool. And he does Thug stuff. I'm like, okay, that's auto-tune. Like, I was thinking, okay, that's auto-tune. That's how I want to, that's my reference point for that. And then on the other side, I was listening to the Migos No Label 2, and it was like, cut that shit up quick. Like, I'm like, who's chopping these beats up? Is it the producer sending the beats out like this? Is it the DJ getting the song afterwards and doing some other shit? No, it's the engineer in the studio they recording that's going dummy. That's breaks here, chop it up here, reverse it here, bring it back. Like, you know, the mixtape days where it's like, bring that, you know, explosion. Like, all that's done more times than not in the studio. You know what I mean? So once I unlocked that key, put two and two together, we was off to the races. You take a little auto-tune, take some beat chops, you get your template right, you get things organized, and then you grind it out. A big part about these mixes is just creating moments. And if you can do that, I think you can really start to see how, you know, transitions can change, intro, outros can change. You know, like I said earlier, with like just taking a specific part of the stems for that 4 bars of the song, like it might seem like a lot of work, but it's less work in the long run, I promise you, than just doing something ordinary or doing the most, trying to be extraordinary. You just find a nice pocket and you're going to kill it. You know what I mean? So Steelo Foreign, man, checking in with Producergrind through this behind the mix. It's been lit. And if I could give y'all one gem, man, I would say, especially in the recording for the engineers watching this specific video, I would say record low. That's for sure. I prefer low than hot, just because I have this theory that if you're hotter, if you're catching more of the room just inherently, like you turn it up, you're capturing more radius, more background. So if you record low, at least, yeah, you might have to you're gonna get that gain when you bump it back up, but at least you're not clipping, at least you're not doing other things. So I would say record low. A nice medium is good, but to each his own. And then on top of that, I would say read the room. Check in with the artists. See if they, like, most of my placements have been by a 5-10 minute beat that I played in a 4-bar loop for about 30 seconds, and I turned around, and if they're thinking of a word, I'm next step. I'm tracking it out, arranging it in Logic, and then by the time they spit their first 2 bars, I'm like, let's go. Like, it's time to run it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason not to run it. You're already vibing to it. You see that the energy's there. If you're efficient enough, you can capture that inspiration in enough time to get the song done. But if not, shit, push through it. I mean, sometimes those frustrations and learning curves, like, damn, I'm not inspired right now. That's like, you got to be that spark. So read the room and be that spark. And even with just those two, you're going to be in a good position to succeed, especially in an engineering seat. You know what I mean? So it's in a producer seat. So take those with you for sure. Yo, so it's Steelo Foreign here. It's been fun. Shout out Producergrind for having me go behind the mix on this loaded record with Billyracxx and Lil Gotit coming out February 5th. Make sure y'all get the merch that go with it, because that's what we are. Best believe it. And if you have any other things that you want to know, come give me on my personal page. But again, man, shout out Producergrind, the platform doing great things for the community. And hopefully I'll come back and I'll get with y'all soon, all right?
In front of my guys, going to her phone, no surprise.